Hello, this is Monsoon117 and this is a goals update. So, chapter releases have slowed down recently and here is why. So I'm going to try and explain it in the most transparent way possible, and hopefully that will just kind of fill you guys in on exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and hopefully satisfy your guys' concerns for why I haven't been posting as much. I've been editing the New World for publishing. So basically what ended up happening was I talked with an editor and he told me that I need to transcribe my stuff on Railroad onto a Word document, right? Because that can actually convert into a Kindle file. So in the process of converting it, I'm having to change a lot of the status updates and stuff like that. And as you may imagine, having to learn an entirely new way of sort of organizing these tables and stuff has taken a while because I wanted it to look clean and sharp and good, obviously, because it's my novel and I worked really hard on it. So I want to make sure the product is polished and just professional level. So the best way that I figured out how to do that was to take my time. So I am trying to, speed through this to try and get it over with, but it's taking up a lot of my mental energy. And honestly, I'm exhausted. So to give you an example, I'm on midway through chapter 14 right now. And it's kind of difficult at this point because I'm having to change some story and plot details. Whenever I first wrote the New World, I rushed through this part of the story. I know exactly what was on my mind at the time, and it's not something I'm the most proud of. Basically, I was rushing through this because partially laziness, because I didn't want to have to work or spend much more time on these chapters, but it was also at least a large part mental exhaustion, because at this time, this is during a phase where I wrote 23 chapters in 1 month. So you guys probably remember those moments fondly. For me, that was misery, because I was having to compromise my work in order to produce enough of it to keep myself up to date and basically on the map whenever it comes to Railroad standards. Because that's what they reward. They reward constant updates. And if you are constantly updating your stuff, even if your story only has like a 4-star rating, which for Railroad is really low, you can still be one of the most popular stories simply due to the sheer volume of content and the free exposure that the site allows whenever you post that much. So this is exactly what I was taking advantage of. Now my story obviously isn't a 4-star story. I think its rating's at like 4.55. It's recently moved up because of the yaw mark, so people are really enjoying that. So that's awesome. I'm like, yes, my hard work there really paid off. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to work hard to make sure that whenever I publish the New World, it's not a book where I'm like, oh yeah, that's all right. I did pretty good at that. I want it to be something that I am proud of, because whenever I'm proud of my work, that's whenever I'm passionate about it. That's whenever I can work, 8-10 hours a day consistently, every single day without breaks, and it's okay. But whenever I'm not that passionate about it, I'm just unloading content in a certain regulated pace, and I'm not going back to polish it and make it really nice and basically shiny, I guess. Get rid of all these little tiny imperfections that make it look rough. It just doesn't excite me as much, because I want to be working on something that's awesome. And I feel like the New World really has that potential. It has the potential to be a really popular book on the Kindle environment. I just need to iron out a few of the earlier story errors. So the big one so far, in my opinion, right, is after the Baldag arc, Daniel leaves the dungeon. He doesn't hang out with David or Stacy, two characters you guys have probably already forgotten about unless you reread the New World recently. And essentially, it doesn't make much sense to me rereading it. I'm like, they both live in the same town. Why wouldn't they travel there together? And then everything is bunched up, right? It's like I wanted to get to a certain part of the story and I didn't know what that was. So I just sort of rushed through all these elements that, if I had just taken more time with them, they would be more fleshed out, they'd be more interesting and fun, and it just wouldn't feel like should have just put in a time skip, right? And besides for that, it could add a lot of depth to the New World and a lot of depth to Daniel's character. It'd make him more consistent at the very least. Because I'm rereading the first couple 200-300 pages of the New World, and I'm impressed, you know, like Daniel has a very distinct character. Like it comes across, it oozes through the prose. Like his way of thinking, his way of doing things is so evident, and it's like publisher level quality. And I'm just very impressed that I was able to pull this out, and I feel like at some point in the story I sort of lost track of that. So I'm trying, and I got it back again, obviously, but what I want to do is make sure that that's consistent. I don't want to publish it whenever it doesn't have that. So that's generally what I'm trying to do here. And I'm also going to have to change how he handled Michael and Kelsey, so his two friends. That was one part of the book I already knew that I'd have to fix whenever I went towards editing and publishing it. And that's, you know, that's tough stuff. That's a tough pill to swallow, because I do not feel proud of how I handled that. It was hobbled together, and it could have been a lot better. So it's just how it is. You know, whenever you're working in time frames, sometimes you got to compromise quality. That is the name of the game when it comes to being an author. So in this case, I finally have enough time to spend on editing that I don't need to like constantly release chapters. Now that isn't to say I want to quit working on the new stuff, right? I do want to keep working on it. My goal is to maintain at least one release a week, preferably two. But based upon how I've been feeling recently with all this editing of chapter, I mean, I'm spending hours and hours a day editing this stuff. It's tough, and it's very difficult. And here, soon, I'm going to have to really get deep in this story and plot line and really iron out some serious problems and hopefully improve the story dramatically. Like, if I could get it so that there is no hiccup between the Baldag rule arc and the Yawm arc, and just completely iron that out so it transitions into the plague part really nicely, I feel like my book is like easily one of the best on Royal Road. But as is, that's a serious problem, and it seems out of character, it seems random and just hobbled in there, and it doesn't make much sense. And I feel like it's kind of, it's just letting the book down. And I want to get rid of that. I want to make it awesome, you know? I don't want the sequel or the first book to be like, oh, it was great first half, and then the second half, woof, author fell off the boat. Like, that would be painful to read reviews like that. And I already know they're coming if I release it as is. So that's my goal. That's the reason it's taking so long. I'm trying, guys. I promise you guys I'm trying. But it's just exhausting. You know, editing's not fun as an author. It's like the exact opposite process of writing new content. Whenever you write new content, you have to break down these like walls of thought in your mind and try and eliminate rules as much as possible. That leads towards creative generation. Whenever you're editing, it's the exact opposite. If you tear down those walls, well, it creates inconsistencies in formatting and inconsistencies in how you handle the story and all this other stuff. You have to build up all these rules that you follow throughout the novel to keep it clean and polished. And that isn't good whenever you're trying to reverse from that mindset to this other mindset. It's just really difficult. I'm finding that to be, you know, just awfully difficult. It's so hard to do. So hopefully, you know, this process won't take that much longer. You know, I'm expecting, if I'm on it, my goal is the end of September, because the moment I got back, you know, the moment I got into the actual editing process, it was much more than I thought. I had to convert it from Royal Road to Microsoft Word and then send that in. They're going to send me back a line-by-line edit, which means I have to go in, change the wording for all the mistakes that they see and stuff. I go through that in like 2 weeks or something. Then I send it back. They do a proofread, send it back to me. Then I convert that Word file onto a Kindle document, which then will require me to iron out a couple kinks in that reformatting process. It should be a lot easier because I've already done a couple reformats with what I've worked on right now, and it's not going to be nearly as long as the line-by-line edit, but it's still going to take me a couple days to finish that. So at best, end of September. Earlier than that, I don't think so. Honestly, just to be honest. I underestimated how much work it required. So, and I don't want to turn in a garbage product, because the Kindle market is different than Royal Road. Royal Road, anything can succeed, no matter what the grammar errors are. People expect it. People don't expect that in Kindle. Okay, if you come out with a book with tons of grammar errors, formatting errors, etc., people are going to butcher you. And it's the difference between selling, you know, 10,000 copies of a book and 1,000 copies of a book. Just a tiny layer of polish. Perfect example would be Gravity Tales versus Royal Road. Royal Road has a much more successful transference rate whenever they publish their novels than Gravity Tales does. Even though Gravity Tales is a much more popular site overall. Like, it is infinitely more popular. And that's what I find odd is that, like, the reincarnation of the strongest sword god, right? Fun novel to read, right? It's not, whoa, this is epic and this is another masterpiece. It's just a fun read. And that works great for the serial format. It does not work well for the publishing format though, because if you look at the number of reviews is an excellent indicator of the number of sales of a product, and especially when it comes to books. It only has like 50, 60 reviews. But you look at Everybody Loves Large Chest, a highly polished and refined book. Now, of course, it has a lot of, you know, smut and stuff like that, but hell, I'm not a prude. You know, it isn't like I'm going to say it's a bad book because it has sex scenes and stuff in it. And, you know, as long as you aren't, you know, acting like, oh, I'm too high and mighty to read something with smut and all this indecency, then it's a really good novel. And that sold tremendously well. I believe it had 680 ratings last time I checked. That means it sold probably over 10,000 copies. You know, like a ton of copies. Maybe not 10,000, but a lot. And if I remember doing the math, and it's probably, you know, he's probably earned tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Maybe even over 100 grand from that novel, plus the sequel. So, just something to be realistic and aware of. That's what I'm shooting for. And I want to produce novels of that quality. That's what I'm trying to do whenever I become an author. And that's the reason I haven't been publishing chapters as often, and that's the reason it's, you know, I've been almost, not silent, but not communicative. Not as communicative as I was before. That's why. So, sorry for the long video, guys. It's just a lot to explain, because lots been going on, so. And the thing is, it's strange because I'm actually working harder than I have been for the last couple months, because I actually organized my sleep schedule, so I'm waking up at 7 o'clock every single day. Like, every single day, on the money. I've been doing it for weeks now, and that's how I've been able to grind out this editing and stuff. So, but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully it enlightens you guys onto a few of the issues, and I hope it isn't that disappointing, but I'm just trying to be honest. So, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I'm not that practiced either. It's new. You know, so I will become better at this as I do it more. But that takes time, you know. Skill accruement, it takes a long time. So, this is Monster 17, and this is a monthly update.